Welcome back to Sleepless Automotive. I'm your host, AI Al. Tonight's episode is a heavier one, but it's important because we're talking about the tragic death of Paul Walker. He wasn't just an actor from the Fast and Furious franchise. He was a genuine car enthusiast, a racer, and someone who meant a lot to the car community. Joining me is my guest, AI Damon, someone who, like many of us, grew up with the Fast and Furious movies and felt the loss deeply. Damon, welcome.
Thanks, Al. Yeah, man, this one still hurts. Paul wasn't just a celebrity, he was one of us. He loved cars, he loved the culture. And the way it ended, it was shocking.
Let's walk through it. On November 30th, 2013, Paul was at a charity event for his organization, Reach Out Worldwide. During a break, he went for a ride in a Porsche Carrera GT, driven by his friend Roger Rodas. Tragically, the car lost control, hit a light pole and some trees, and caught fire. Now, the investigation later found that speed was a critical factor. The car was going between 80 and 93 miles per hour in a 45 zone. But there's more to this story than just they were going too fast. The Carrera GT itself has a reputation. Beautiful, raw, but incredibly difficult to handle. No traction control, no stability systems, nothing holding your hand. It's as close to a race car with license plates as you can get.
Yeah, and here's the thing a lot of people don't realize. People actually went and drove that same stretch of road after the crash, and they found there was this subtle bump, almost like a dip. At normal speeds, you'd never notice it. But at 80 plus in a Carrera GT, that little bump could unsettle the car completely. Add that to how twitchy and unforgiving the GT is, and suddenly you're fighting physics. And on top of that, the tires on that car were old. Some reports said they were 9 years old. Anyone who knows cars knows rubber degrades with time, even if there's tread left, so grip wouldn't have been what it should be. That's another factor stacked against them.
Exactly. And here's one more detail that makes this tragedy even harder. Paul didn't die instantly on impact. The coroner's report confirmed that he survived the crash, at least for a short period. That's devastating to think about, because it means this wasn't just sudden. It was something that could have been survivable under different circumstances. And that's part of the story people don't always realize. Paul wasn't driving recklessly. He wasn't even behind the wheel. But being a passenger in a car like that, at that speed, on that road, with old tires, it was a perfect storm of danger.
Right, and you remember after it happened, there was a ton of speculation. Some people blamed Porsche, saying the Carrera GT was unsafe to even sell as a road car. Others said it was just speed, or that it was bad judgment to push a machine like that on public roads. There were lawsuits. Paul's family argued that Porsche could have made the car safer, that it didn't have things like stability control or a stronger fuel system that might have prevented the fire. And I get why they pushed that. It's hard to accept losing someone and not look for accountability.
Yeah, and those lawsuits went pretty far. Paul's daughter, Meadow, sued Porsche, and it went through the courts for years. In the end, Porsche wasn't found legally responsible.
The courts essentially ruled that the Carrera GT is a dangerous car, yes, but it's inherently so. Buyers know what they're getting into, and that's really the story of the GT. It's legendary, it's pure, but it demands absolute respect. It doesn't forgive mistakes, and even if you're experienced, even if you're careful, things can go wrong in a split second.
Which is exactly what makes this so tragic. It wasn't recklessness. It was a combination of road conditions, old tires, speed, and a car that was already notorious for being unforgiving. Take away any one of those factors, and maybe Paul is still with us today.
But here's where I want to pivot, Damon. Paul's death was a tragedy, but his life left a massive legacy in car culture. He wasn't just acting in Fast and Furious. He was genuinely in love with cars. He owned an incredible collection. He raced. He was active in the community.
Yeah, and that's why people connected with him. Like he wasn't faking it. When you saw Brian O'Connor on screen, that was Paul Walker off screen. He actually wrenched on his cars. He actually went to meets. He wasn't just playing a role. He was living it.
And after his death, you saw the impact. Car meets all over the world turned into memorials. People drove in convoys, lit candles, paid tribute. That's not just celebrity worship. That's car culture recognizing one of its own.
Exactly. And even now, every time a new Fast and Furious comes out, people still say it's not the same without Paul. Because he was the heart of it. The stunts got crazier, the budgets got bigger, but Paul was the soul.
So what do we take from this? Paul's death was tragic, yes, but it also reminds us how powerful cars are, how much respect they demand, and it shows us the impact one person can have on an entire culture. For many car guys, Paul Walker was the reason they got into cars, and that passion, that authenticity, is something we should carry forward. Not just the sadness of how he died, but the joy of how he lived, what he gave to car culture, and how he brought people together.
Well said, Al. At the end of the day, it's about family. No pun intended.
Had to sneak that in, but you're right. Rest in peace, Paul Walker. Gone, but never forgotten.